Well, I'm originally from a place in North Carolina called Smithfield, North Carolina, which is on 95 South, about halfway between Rocky Mount and Fayetteville. I imagine you guys have been down that way, so you know a bit of what I speak. I went to an all-black school, elementary and high school, all through all through my school career, because that's just the way the South was. It's segregated white and black, and the whites went to one high school, and the opposite for the opposite race. My little high school was called Johnston County Training School. That's a little bit of stigma to the name when you put training on it. They can treat it any kind of way, negatively or positively. I grew up. As I began to remember, my father bought a small plot of land out in the country from Smithfield, and it was a little land lot that had 21 acres, and he had in mind, doing a little bit of gentleman farming. And obviously, us youngsters, we were going to be the ones who did the work. He had his own setup. He was a businessman. We were in the trucking business. And when I grew up thinking that the only thing that I really wanted to do was to be a truck driver, a long haul truck driver. And ended up, the only truck driving I did was in the summer as I got old enough to have a chauffeur's, what we call the chauffeur's license, which allowed you to drive trucks. But that was fun. I drove all over North Carolina in my real young days, running around from town to town, picking up bales of cotton and lumber and all those kinds of things, and transporting them to the mills and the cotton mills, because North Carolina had the Cannon mills and other mills that did towels and shirts and all those kinds of manufacture. I went to Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Graduated in 1954. I majored in biology. I had in mind that I wanted to be a dentist, but I never was able to put in the kind of work that was necessary, so I settled for being a biology teacher back in Johnson County, my county, and another county, Cumberland County, which is at Fayetteville. My first teaching job was in Cumberland County. But before that, as soon as I left Shaw, I was drafted into the service, into the Army. And because of my biology background, they put me in the medics. And so I didn't have a hard time like some soldiers did once we got through basic. I, for the most part, rode to where we were going because I was the accompanying medic, and they had to take care of me, I didn't have to walk as much as everybody else. But I came back home in 1956 from being in service. I served 2 years. And as soon as about the time I got back home, I met a beautiful young lady who had come into my town to work. And I saw her one day at what we call the open air market. And I was compelled to speak to her. And I brought her to New Jersey when I came. So that was quite a long time. We've been married 60 years.
Wow.
have two children. One is a boy and a girl. My son is Alpha. He's a lawyer for Johnson and Johnson. My daughter is went to Cornell and graduated, and now she is working with. She's working with. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of it right now, but Amazon. Working with Amazon, and both are doing quite well. I have two grandchildren, no, three grandchildren. Two boys and one girl. They live in East Brunswick. Yeah, my father was he was one of those people, like many of the people in his day. He never finished school. They didn't even have a high school, but he never finished sixth grade. But he was an excellent mechanic and had a very, very strong business acumen. I don't know where he got it, because it didn't come from anybody that I recognized in the back part of the family. I worked as a biology teacher in Cumberland County for maybe 6 years or so. Then I got my master's and became a principal and a teacher principal in Johnson County. But I never liked teaching because it kept me too confined. Once I traveled all over the state and East Coast, I didn't want to spend all my day, even lunch, in some confinement. So
one place.
Yeah. So, what happened was when desegregation came about, the way they did it in the South, they demoted the black principals and assigned them to schools where there was a white principal and made the black guys the assistant. And by then, my head was big enough that I thought I was important enough that I could complain to whomever I wanted about the treatment I was getting. I did. I came down to investigate, and I found out that he was traveling all over the East Coast doing his work, and I wanted to find out if I could do that. So I asked him, and I finally got a job with the Department of Education. At that point, it was the Health, Education, and Welfare, and now it's the Department of Education. But the job I got was going around like he was doing, investigating cases of discrimination on the basis of race, and eventually on the basis of sex, and 504, which of the handicap. So, and I traveled from state to state, visiting the schools, high schools and elementary schools, and talking with principals and superintendents and boards of education about the complaints that we got, or if we didn't have, then we were just monitoring how they were desegregating the school system, and that was my job. And that's how I came to Willingboro, by way of Charlottesville, Virginia, where the regional office was located at the time that I went to work for them. And it was relocating to Philadelphia. The regional office was relocating to Philadelphia. So my family and I, of course, came, to Philadelphia in that relocation, and moved into Willingboro, and hence I've been here ever since. Oh, as a matter of fact, I got into ALPHA a long time before that. I got into ALPHA at Shaw University. We're back in 1952. So I've been about 68 years into Alpha at this point. Yeah, that's where I went over, Beta Row chapter in Raleigh, North Carolina, at Shaw University. Well, I guess the truth of the matter is, when I went to Shaw, I really don't think I'd heard anything about any kind of fraternity before I did go to Shaw. But when I did, I had a cousin. I had two cousins. One was a double first cousin, and one was just a first cousin, and both of them were in Alpha. And obviously, you know, that was where I was going since I was there with them. I was figuring that they may be able to protect me, and they did. And so that's how I came to be an Alpha. Well, when I came to Willingboro, the first contact, there was no chapter here, but I can't remember exactly what the first contact was with an Alpha person, but I did look for an Alpha chapter, and I met with some of the guys. Willingboro was new at the time, and there were several people who had moved into Willingboro and Burlington and Morristown and Mount Holly and all those places that were Alpha, but they were going to Zeta Iota Lambda in to the chapter up there. And we traveled up there for a while, but we thought that it was too far to work all day and then have to go to drive a distance to a meeting. So we wanted to get one here in the area of Willingboro, and we were successful. The guy who was head of New Jersey at the time was named Albert Weisner, and we got in touch with him, and he helped us, establish the chapter here in Willingboro. So we were chartered in 1973. We really didn't have a lot of members. We chartered with about 15 members, or a couple of more or less. And after we established the chapter, I think we grew about another 5 or 6. I remember. So it was a chapter about 22, 23, or something like that. Well, actually, we really didn't have any independent programs. We just basically met, and talked, and we had our libations, and just had fun together. At the time, we actually were meeting. We were meeting in houses, in the brothers' houses, so we had a chance to meet the families, the wives, and our wives, and all. Got to know each other, and so we did a little partying. Whatever little partying we did together. But as far as notable chapters, we just did scholarships, small scholarships and stuff like that. That was quite nice, because we didn't know anybody when we came to Willingboro, and the chapter was built. The chapter was founded maybe 2 or 3 years after I got here. So all my contact was with the brothers of the chapter. I've never made very many friends outside the chapter. Of course, I was always active in the community, so I knew a few people there. but my social life was with the chapter. Well, actually, after a few years, let's see, but I have memories of us having cookouts and things like that at each other's houses. We did have a formal each year during that time, and that was basically it. I was at the time I was kind of a guy who went to a meeting, but I didn't do very much beyond go to meetings because I had the idea that fraternities were, for colleges, and I didn't think there was very much else to be done. I thought I was basically through with fraternities. Mm-hmm. The fondest memory I have, I suppose, the most consequential one was my kids were small, but my wife and I decided that we were going to go take a trip to the General Convention as a vacation, and I got there, and there were so many black people there, black men, black women, black families, and went to some of the meetings that they held that was just so, to my mind, was just so inspirational, and it was just such a thrill, to see how they were carrying on, how they were making meaningful speeches and talking about meaningful things, and the programs that they were doing in their various chapters, until I kind of caught fire. After that, I was no longer just a person who went to meetings, but I was a person who wanted to be a part of doing something worthwhile. And the thing that still impresses me until this day is the amount of latitude that I was given to do stuff. I was interested in, since I had been a principal, I was interested in young people. And so I came up with the idea, the idea of working with young men, young boys between 12 and 18 years old. We raised money. We started having New Year's Eve dances to raise money for scholarships, and we had a goal of $20,000. We wanted to raise $20,000 and put that in a fund where we could offer the scholarships from the interest that the money drew. And we decided that we were just not going to do anything, scholarships, anything else, until such time as we had raised the $20,000. But we raised the $20,000, and as a matter of fact, we raised $25,000. So therefore, we had a little extra money to do something with, and I wanted to do and suggested that we start a program like the Alpha program, what is our program where we, at the time, we would have at least one time a year where we have the young men to come together and we talk to them about, family and stuff like that. What is our program?
Leadership development.
No. Having to do with teaching young boys how to be men. We gotta get this thing together. Come on, God, give me a hand here.
Project Alpha.
Project
Alpha. Yeah, thank you. People who listen to this tape or wonder where has he been? He can't even remember that. Anyway, so the Fred was doing Project Alpha once a year, but since the young black men were having such a struggle, staying out of jail or staying out of trouble or whatever, we thought that we wanted to do something more often. So we came up with the idea of the Afro-Male Institute. And in the Afro-Male Institute, we would meet every Saturday morning, and the young men would come over, and we'd give them lunch, and then we would have a session or two, and then we would play a little basketball after during the break period, and that started in 1992. So we did the Afro-Male Institute, and the information that I sent you today with all the programs that we did during the few years between 92 and actually 2006, where it seemed like we were lucky enough to get a few funds from various entities that we could keep the Afro-Male Institute going. And so they just kept growing, and growing. So we did a heck of a lot of things like that. So that was very, very important to me. I still haven't gotten over it, although I don't do anything now. I still have the feeling in my heart that I ought to be doing something with the young man, but because I just have to leave it to the young man to do for the young man. Actually, before the Afro-Male Institute closed, I think the whole thing went about 15 years. And by that time, I had retired. Of course, I wanted to retire so I could do what I was doing with the young man full time. And in '95, I retired, and that's what I would do with my time. And my wife said, with my time and her time and everybody else's time, and working with the various programs that we did for the Afro-Male Institute. But no, I thought after 2006, I thought I had gotten too old to do anything like that. So I called myself retiring, and I thought I had found a young man who would take the program over and keep it going. But he was more mouth than accomplishment, so he wasn't able to keep it going. So after 2006, it kind of folded. But before it did close, we also became a Boys and Girls Club. We shifted from Afro-Male Institute to a Boys and Girls Club of Burlington County, and we had good success with that Boys and Girls Club, but the problem with that is they require you to have a dedicated building, and you have to pay your volunteers at the same rate as the the going rate within your area. And we were never able to raise enough money, to do anything like pay anybody. I've never taken a dime of any kind, from it. But I certainly wasn't able to keep several people employed, So it folded when I left. It folded after that. That was, I got lucky there. My kids made friends and my wife made friends. So we were having the meetings every year. So we knew every year we were going to the general convention, and everybody was happy and looked forward to it. And I didn't have to do anything other than, okay, let's go, because my wife did all the legwork with the sending the money in to for the for the various programs that were going to be done, and it was great fun. But it all stemmed from that first meeting that we went to in Atlanta, where we're both so impressed with the people that we found down there. I'd recommend anybody who hasn't gone to a general convention to be sure they do. And if you have any significant others, take them with you and just enjoy yourself. Yeah, if I had anything really to say about it or was able to contribute to it, I'd like to see programs like the Afro-Male Institute, not necessarily name the Afro-Male Institute, but to be able to have programs for the, try to help the young man, to try to help guide them. And since we were at Boys and Girls Club, if I had, unlimited resources, I would want to establish a Boys and Girls Club here. I'd like to see the chapter do it, but it's too expensive for one chapter to do something like that. If you're going to do a Boys and Girls Club, you'd have to, have a regional area kind of thing. I'd probably say, depending on how much time I had, I'd probably say several things, but I think the thing that jumps into my mind more than anything else is a lesson that I think I've learned, and that is Alpha is bigger than any one individual. I've seen folks come into the chapter and something happened that they don't like, and they leave, and I won't say never see them again, but they're never active again, and I think that's grievous. It's grievous to me to see that happen. I'll give you an example. How it grows. We've had situations where we've had a president and an election was held, and the president, the chapter didn't elect the president for the second 2 years or however many years we do it, and the people, the president leave, and they don't come back. They're angry. They get very angry. But that's not what organization is about, in my opinion. But they don't have to have been the president. Sometimes people just decide to leave because they just don't like what somebody said. And I would urge anybody who became a member of the chapter just hold out and let the few bad times pass, and kind of stay connected. I think that I think that, well, I'm encouraged by what's happening in the chapter now, which I'm greatly satisfied with. But it's some of these young new guys that we've gotten in that just they just blow my mind, and the kinds of activities they engage in and how they have what they've added to the chapter. One of the greatest examples I know of that is your young brother Jermaine Mungo. He's brought a lot to this chapter, and there are a couple of guys who came in with during that same time with him that were very, very instrumental in keeping the chapter, making the chapter a bit fresher than what it was when they came in. You know, that's old guys. Some of them, none of them, hardly any of them as old as I am, but there are some who were, you know, much older than they. And I think they've added a great deal to the chapter. And I'm very pleased with that. I would encourage that. Let us old guys do what old guys do, fade away, you know. I guess I'd like to apologize again. I'd like to commend you guys and you for being persistent enough to not say the hell with them, you know. I'll go back and try at least one more time. For some reason, I just kept putting it off, and decided that I really did want to participate. I didn't decide that. I decided that a long time ago. I really did want to participate, but like I said earlier on, sometimes I get down to the last thing, and that's the hardest thing to complete. But I'm very pleased that you've kept at it, and that we finally put it together. I hope it turns out well. I'm sure it will.